Hi YouTube, this is Raven. I'm a survivor of a 16-year marriage to a covert narcissist, and now I'm in a high conflict divorce from a covert narcissist. And early on in my divorce, I made a lot of mistakes, and I also had, some successes, but, I was confiding in my friends and family over all the things that were happening in the divorce. And, a lot of times, friends and family, they're great, they sympathize, but they really don't understand what's going on. And so I knew that I needed to find a support group. So I joined several support groups online, and it was amazing, to see that, their narcs or, their borderlines or sociopaths, whatever, were kind of doing the same thing that, my narc did. It was almost like there was a handbook. There's like a douchebag handbook, a douchebag handbook written for douchebags, by douchebags, for douchebags. And, they were all kind of doing the same thing. And I got a lot of really good advice from these online forums. And one of the things that they all suggested was the concept of no contact. And what that means is that once your narc is out of your life, the abuser's out of your life, you don't bring them back in. You don't talk to them, you don't call them, you don't write them, email them, text them, whatever. No contact means no contact with them. And, that's great, if you can do it. But unfortunately, if you have children with your narc, no contact is probably not going to be feasible. Because there are all kinds of things that come up from if you have joint custody, you have to deal with them, sometimes almost on a daily basis. So what I decided to do was to go low contact. I try to minimize the amount of contact that I have with douchebag. That's what I call it, douchebag. And early on, he made it very difficult for me to go low contact. And he even put in the parenting agreement that every Friday at 12 noon, mother will email or call the father and give him a status update on the children's week. And, early on, I was very worried that if I didn't include every single detail about the children's lives, that he was going to use that against me, that he was going to say that I was in contempt of a court order because I was not giving him every single detail about the children's lives. So every Friday, I would send these very detailed emails. And he started using these emails against me, especially if something bad had happened during the week, like if my daughter got a 60 or 65 or whatever on a math quiz. He would, first email me, accusing me of obviously not helping her enough with her homework and not caring about her academic career. But then he would turn around and, FaceTime her, to berate her and rake her over the coals. Like, do you want to fail? Do you want to be stupid? Do you want to be held back in another grade? Do you want to repeat the 4th grade? And my daughter, she understands boundaries a lot better than I do. I wish that I'd understood boundaries when I was that age. Because, she listened to him, verbally abuse her for a few minutes, and then she'd had enough. And she just click and cut him off. Smart kid at 10. I wish I had learned that lesson early in life, that you don't have to take verbal abuse. You can walk away or, hang up or whatever. But he also put in the parenting agreement that he would have access to the children via electronic communication, either FaceTime, Skype, Facebook, email, text, call, whatever, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And he was exercising this right, 4 or 5 times a day, in the beginning when he was pretending to be super dad. But, now, it'll be 3 or 4 days goes by before he ever talks to him. And then he talks to him for like 5 minutes and he's off, off of FaceTime. But he would call up and he would have my son, he would say, show me your room. Show me mommy's room. Show me this. Show me that. And so my son's walking around the house with, his iPad, just showing everything. And, it was an invasion of privacy. And, I work from home, I'd be typing. And all of a sudden, my son puts the iPad up in my face. And, here's my narc, my abuser. That's the way he always looked. He always had this look on his face, just that stare that can almost stare through you. And if you've been abused by a narc, you know what I'm talking about. That steel trap stare, the stare of death. And, so I told the children, from now on, when he calls, you need to sit on the couch, don't go anywhere, stay in one place. And, they do that. But, he would email me constantly, sometimes 10 and 15 times a day early on in the divorce, just kind of, harassing me or ordering me around, telling me what to do. And I had to get to the point to where, I didn't need to be answering all these emails, but I was afraid to not answer them because sometimes he was accusing me of things, and I was afraid if I didn't answer all of the accusations that he made, that, I was basically admitting that they were true. And, there were sometimes he would send emails, like, I don't want our daughter to have the flu shot. The flu shot is too traumatic. Having needles put in you is too traumatic. I want her to have the flu mist. Well, my first reaction is to answer him, you think needles are traumatic, pal? It's like being married to you for 16 years was trauma. Now that's trauma. But, I had to, stop, put it through a filter. And so the low contact version of that is, okay, fine, arrange for her to get the flu mist. And that's it. But, my lawyer early on in the divorce, she was very incompetent, but, she saw these emails coming through, and she said, well, maybe it should just go through me. Just have the contact go through me, through his lawyer, then my lawyer. And, this was her version of low contact. And the problem is that, she didn't understand that he would send 10 and 15 emails a day. And, this lasted all of one day, when she saw what was going on. Because lawyers charge, like some lawyers charge $300 an hour, and, they charge by the 10th of the hour. So, you've just paid them, $30 to read an email, from your douchebag. So that's not feasible. And another point of conflict early on in the divorce was, drop-offs and pickups of the kids. Because when you have joint custody, you can't go no contact, especially when you're having to drop the kids off and pick them up. And, when he would pick up the kids or drop them off, there was one time, he got in my face and he said, our daughter, or your daughter, didn't sleep the entire weekend. She didn't sleep the entire weekend. I had to drug her. I had to give her melatonin to make her go to sleep. And then, of course, his sister's with him. And, he brought her for backup. And she gets in my face, too. Yeah, you need to give her melatonin. You need to give her melatonin. She didn't sleep at all. She didn't sleep at all. And I get back in their face, and I'm like, back off. I have spent the entire summer, these children are stressed, and they're sad, and they're having to deal with a loss of, the family unit. The fact that they had to move out to the country and leave their friends, leave their school. They have so many life changes they're dealing with, and I've been doing everything I can to help them get a normal sleep pattern again. So back off. Well, there was another time when I was picking my son up from Boy Scouts, and he's there. And, douchebag walks me to the car like he's pretending to be a gentleman. And he gets to the car, and I get the kids in the car, and then he turns to me and he says, you need to tell your lawyer to back off, because she's going to blow this deal right out of the water. We almost had a child support order signed, and we almost had the financial stuff worked out for the divorce, and then she comes back and says, I'm not paying enough child support. And, she's saying that, I can't have half of your military pension. And you're supposed to make me your sole survivor. Something, if you die, then I get half of your military pension. I'm like, woo, back up. I said, you need to talk to your lawyer. I do talk to my lawyer several times a week. And I remember kind of laughing, it's like, yeah, and he's charging you $300 an hour every time you talk to him. But, at that point I learned that when I did drop-offs and pickups, I needed to be recording things. So now, if I am by myself at a drop-off or a pickup, the first thing I do before I get out of the car is I take out my iPhone and I, push the button to start recording. And I also learned that, I need a witness. And, so sometimes I would take my mom or my dad or my brother, so that way he's on his best behavior because, there are witnesses. And he's not going to, a covert narcissist is not going to berate you in front of people. But, if you're by yourself, then he's going to be, the demon that he was at home. But a good way to go no contact on this is, if you can, is to have a third party drop the kids off and pick them up. A lot of times my mom will do that, and it really helps because there's some days that I can't deal with him. There's some days that it causes me so much stress. I just feel that stress ball in my chest. And it's just easier that way. But, you know, I asked a friend of mine that she did go through a high conflict divorce. You know, how do you deal with, you know, with the low contact, no contact? Because, you know, even if you don't have contact with them, you still have these times in your mind where you're replaying all the abuse that they're putting you through. Like, how do you deal with that? And she said that, you know, she has to tell herself that her husband is dead. That the man that she knew died when her cancer died. Because she had, you know, what was obviously, it looked like a fairy tale marriage. And then one day, you know, her husband comes home and says, I want a divorce. I'm moving out. And he left her with a house she couldn't afford. She had to sell it. You know, her douchebag husband moved into an apartment, had a girlfriend, you know, and couldn't wait to divorce her so that he could get married again. And, you know, in the meantime, you know, she had cancer, almost died. And, you know, through all of this, she's remained just a very strong, positive woman, a very loving person. You know, and I asked her, how do you do this? And, you know, she said, you know, again, that she has to think of him as being dead. The man that she married died. And the person who's doing all this abusing to her is actually, you know, not him. It's a stranger that looks like him. You know, it's his doppelganger or his evil twin, you know, like when you watch soap operas and, you know, they always kill off an actor and then, you know, the evil twin comes back. But, you know, if you're going through a high conflict divorce, if you can go no contact, that's awesome. But, you know, if you have kids, you're going to have to co-parent. I hate that term coparenting because it assumes that there are two parents in this relationship. There really isn't. There's one adult parent and then there's the child narcissist, you know, who's just a big child. But, you know, be as low contact as you can, just for your own sanity. Try not to get into an email wars or, you know, conflicts when you drop the kids off and pick them up. All right. That's all for now. Be vigilant. Be safe. Take care.